Hello and welcome to Advisor Presents Bill Cates. I'm Doug Heikkinen, the founder and editor of Advisorpedia, and we thank you for attending. We certainly appreciate it. Just one housekeeping item. We'll take questions at the end of the presentation, so please submit those through Zoom's Q&A feature, and we'll tee them up to Bill. And now let me introduce Bill. Every financial professional knows that the most enjoyable and effective way to acquire more ideal clients is through personal introductions. However, most financial professionals have not truly mastered the referral process and therefore may miss opportunities for growth. Bill Cates is the author of 3 best-selling books, Get More Referrals Now, Beyond Referrals, and his new book, Radical Relevance. He also is the host of Top Advisor Podcast, which you can find at topadvisorpodcast.com. Bill just received the rating of the #1 influencer for financial advisors in a survey just released by Indigo Marketing. He's also somewhat of an adventurer. He's trekked through the Himalayas of Nepal. He's lived on a houseboat in Kashmir, India. He reached the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. Wow. Cycled through the countryside in rainy Vietnam and is camped in the Arctic Circle, which sounds incredibly cold. Yes. The most important thing for you to know is that thousands of financial professionals are using Bill's system to attract a steady flow of high-quality clients through referrals and personal introductions. Please help me give a virtual but warm welcome to the referral coach, Bill Cates.
All right. Thank you for that, Doug. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see that. And let me get rid of the floating controls, and then we're ready to go. All right, guys, gals. Great to be part of this program with Advisorpedia. I love contributing to their daily messages. By the way, if you don't get Advisorpedia's daily posts, you want to subscribe because they're great. I love them. Not just mine, but the others that go there too as well. So in case you misheard, not Bill Gates, Bill Cates, missed it by one letter. Bill Gates has a lot of money, a couple billion more than I do. I'm going to help you make more money through attracting more clients, serving them, doing a great job. Get ready to take lots of notes. If you know how I run these webinars, I get right into the meat, and we're going to go there now. Except the thing about questions that Doug did mention at the end, but I will pause, Doug, and for everyone else, a couple times. I got a couple of breaks built in for some Q&A. So put it in the Q&A, better than the chat, because Doug can monitor that a little bit better. But either way, he'll be looking, and I'll pause and we'll see what questions you have, and then we'll continue. There's my email address, billcates@referralcoach.com. If something comes to you later, or you didn't get a full answer or whatever, you want to be in touch, just reach out. Happy to take your questions. So I've been doing this for 30 years, a little bit more than that, actually. When I first got started, most people asked me to teach them how to ask for referrals, introductions without begging, without pushing. And I learned rather quickly that a lot of folks, unfortunately, weren't as referable as they could be. So we focused a lot on client engagement, becoming more referable. We'll touch on that here today, of course. And then do not call regulations come out, all the various ways. It's just so hard to reach people, right? They just don't even answer their phone anymore unless they know who's calling. That we had to focus on the introduction and getting connected, which is so important. Now, the introduction will get your foot in the door usually, but how you talk about what you do, how you describe your value will determine whether it keeps going. And so that's why I wrote my book, Radical Relevance, to help you with your value proposition, to make sure you're talking about your value in a way that's relevant to your prospect, compelling enough to move them to take more interest in what you have to say. So what's the straightest line to relevance, right? What's the easiest, straightest way to be relevant with someone who doesn't know you? Well, it's to get introduced by someone they do know, another trusted source. Could be a friend, colleague, another trusted advisor, you name it. So a little case for referrals. If you don't already know the value, you probably do. But this is a study done recently by a group called 20/10. And if you look at kind of divided into age groups, depending on who you're trying to attract, it could be anywhere from 52% to 79% of the folks you want to meet you from a recommendation from a trusted source. Now, you can see on the younger side of things that those folks are a little more open to doing the online type searching. What we don't know yet, though, is whether as these folks get a little older and as they acquire more assets, become a little wealthier, if you will they start to gravitate towards meeting you through friends and colleagues, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't know that, but we do know that without question, this is the way to meet people. So, why does it work? If I had to summarize everything I've been teaching for the last 30 odd years, the two words would be borrowed trust. We borrow the trust in one relationship long enough to earn our own trust in that new relationship. That's what gets the door open. Now, sometimes that borrowed trust will take us all the way, right? Somebody say, well, if you're good enough for George, you're good enough for me. If you're good enough for Laura, you're good enough for me. But not always. So what happens, of course, easier to reach people, easier to set appointments. You can move your business in whatever direction you want using the referral introduction process. Studies have shown that clients that come into a financial practice or through a referral are about 2.5 times more likely to give a referral. Kind of makes sense that they be predisposed since they met you that way. And you're more relevant, as we already talked, right? And it's how they want to meet you, right? So all the reasons why you're on today and why this is important. And with all that said, let's understand that the referral is not enough, right? We've got to get connected. We've got to get introduced. So from now on, when you're with a prospect, whether you're with a client, whether you're with a center of influence, anyone who has the ability to connect you with someone else, make sure you're using the word introductions. How would you like to introduce me to Laura? Let's talk about how you introduced me to George, right? So we can, pique his interest in hearing from me. All right, we'll get more into that as we go. If you want these slides, by the way, and I do recommend you get them because there's a bunch you're probably going to want to study a little bit later and maybe share with a colleague or your team members. Just send an email to me, put Advisorpedia in the subject line. And I do recommend you put Advisorpedia because I did a webinar yesterday and they're putting something else. If you just put slides, then I might know which webinar you're talking about. So there's my email address, billcates@referralcoach.com. And I'll remind you of this later as we go. Also, I have some free stuff for you. If you go to fearlessreferrals.com, then there's all kinds of little one sheets. I got these 4 one sheets around asking, around becoming more referable, around getting introduced, around receiving the referrals you get. So this is free. Just go to fearlessreferrals.com and you can pick it up over there. All right. So today's agenda is really built around my system. And it starts with the mindset, the thinking, but you're here, you know how important this is. So what we're going to mostly talk about is engagement, meaning you want to become as referable as possible through client engagement. More on that in a minute. And then you want to leverage that. How do we leverage that? How are we appropriately proactive without begging, without pushing? And then getting connected, as I've already talked about. And the beautiful thing is that if you follow this engagement, leverage, connection, you get connected in a good way, and you use the principles of engagement with that brand new prospect, you really can create a continual flow of high quality prospects coming into your business. It really can work. So that's what we're going to follow here today. And everything we talk about here today, when we're talking about leveraging, when we're talking about introductions, it's all based on my definition of financial leadership, which is helping people make financial decisions that are in their best interest that they wouldn't make without you. Think of Sir Isaac Newton's first law of motion. A body in motion tends to remain at rest. A body in motion tends to remain in motion. A body at rest tends to remain at rest unless what? Unless acted upon by that outside force. So guess what? We're that outside force that wakes people up. Now, I use the word force gently here, but we have to wake people up to let them know that the way they are, where they are right now, and the way they've been handling it maybe deserves a second look. And maybe there's some things they've been putting off. And quite often they know that, and they need that leadership from us, right? And that's why you get paid well for the work you do, because it takes courage to do this and to show people maybe a different way. So let's talk about your referability, right? Are you referable? How do you know if you're referable? Well, a barometer for you and for me, everyone on this call should be getting referrals without asking. Unsolicited referrals is a barometer, right, of your referability. Not the only barometer, but it's a big piece of it. So if you're not getting unsolicited introductions and referrals, then maybe you need to pay attention to becoming more referable. And good news is everything we're going to talk about here is going to go towards that. So a study done by Julie Littlechild, she does this every few years out of Toronto, Canada. You can see that while satisfied clients are loyal, right, highly loyal, there's actually a low correlation around the referral process. So satisfied, loyal clients, great, good to have, important to have, but still a low correlation with referability. So what we need to think about is engaged clients, 100% loyal, 98% in her studies have participated in this referral introduction game that we're talking about here. So you're thinking, all right, Bill, sounds good. What's an engaged client? Well, thanks for asking. Look, you're already doing this. I just want to shine a little more light on it so you can do it more, do it better. So first of all, you're making a value connection with your prospects and clients. They like the questions you ask. They like the things you teach. They like the way you maybe disturb their thinking and create new awareness for them. They like your responsive service. They like all, the newsletter you drip value on them, all the various points of value connection. Very, very important. And then you've also made a personal connection. And actually, both of these are very important because if someone sees your value, but maybe not sure if they like you, trust you yet, well, they're not going to do business with you and they're probably not going to introduce you to others. On the other hand, if they like you and think you're a great person, but they're not sure about your value, well, guess what? They're not going to do business. They're not going to introduce you. So throughout the entire relationship, from the prospect the courtship experience to the new onboarding experience to the ongoing relationship, usually the longest part of the relationship, we've got to think in terms of how do we keep providing value and how do we keep expanding what I like to call a business friendship, right? How do we expand that part? Both are very important. Some people want it more than others, but it still needs to be there in some form. So let's get into this a little bit. Let me give you a few thoughts on this. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm quite a big advocate on what I call a client-focused why. Now, there's a lot of folks talking about the why, your personal why you wake up in the morning, all that good stuff. It's all good stuff. What I want to focus on here is the why you believe in the value that you bring, right? What is your emotional connection to the value that you bring? And here's what I found. Your prospects, they want to know what you do. They want to know how you do it, how you're going to take them to what you talk about. But if you're going to expect to have some influence over their current and future financial lives, they also want to have a sense of who you are. What drives you, what makes you you. And when you meet people through referrals, introductions, that gets a little easier. But your why could be, why you got started in this business, could be why you're still in the business, why you're with the firm you're with, why you went independent, why you moved to, broker dealers, why you moved wirehouse, whatever it is, right? That could be the why, could be something that happened and you've observed with your clients over time. Let me give you some very specific examples, make it real for you here. So some of you know I have a podcast called Top Advisor Podcast. It's free, so I encourage you to go check it out. Episode 28 with Tyson Vines. Tyson out of the Cleveland area, and he has a great why. In fact, if you go to tysonstory.com, you can check out his short video. It's just under 3 minutes. What happened with Tyson is when he was very young, his grandfather owned a farm, a successful working farm, died unexpectedly, didn't have financial planning, didn't have estate planning in place. They lost the farm. He actually shows pictures of them selling off the equipment. And then his father actually got into the financial services industry. When his father died, he saw what the difference, the contrast of when proper planning was in place. And this is what drives him. He's seen both. Right. And it's a great little story. And he uses that to attract more people into his world. Carol Cates, no relationship, spelled with a K. I did a webinar for NAFA, California a number of years ago. She responded and with a statement that she started using the client-focused why. She started getting unsolicited referrals from prospects. And so I talked to her on the phone about, what she was doing. And essentially, she and her husband got some bad advice before she became an advisor, and they lost some money, and they eventually recouped. She decides to become a financial professional. And now when she sits down with prospects, and listen to how she words this, she says, that's a little bit about what we do and how we do it. And, more to come on that. I know you have a lot of questions for me, but let me just shift gears for a second and tell you a little bit about why I do this, what drives me every day. And she tells a little bit of the story of where she got some bad advice. And then she says, my mission, my job is to make sure that what happened to me or anything like it never happens to you or anyone I work with. That alone, she started winning more clients, converting more prospects into clients, and becoming more referable in the process. Let me give you one more example. I love this. I was coaching a small group, about 10 folks, and we were working on the why. And Tim had a little trouble figuring out what his why was. He eventually realized what it was. He had become a little more independent, so he wasn't restricted, I guess, by what he could offer his clients. And so he was sitting down with a couple of sisters who were interviewing several advisors to decide who to go with. And he talked about this and why he shifted so that he could do what was indeed in the best interest of his clients, right? And the first sister said, yeah, that's what I've been waiting to hear. The other sister said, that's perfect. They became clients. They brought 1.5 million over. They put 500,000 into annuity. He's helping manage the other million. And all just because he shared his client-focused why. So I recommend you do this early in your new relationships. It's going to create that personal connection that's so important in getting people to move forward. Landmark Wealth Management Group, I just stumbled upon this, their website, and look at this. Everyone on their team has their own why. It's on their website, scrolls across their website, and they tell their whys. So it's a great, great, great strategy. If you want to go a little deeper with this, this is free. I'm not trying to sell you anything here. This is free. referralcoach.com/resources. There's a lot of guides there. And the one on the client focus why is there for your taking. All right. So that's the first early stage of a relationship. Now let's go into the onboarding process. Think of the first 60 to 90 days of your brand new relationships. What are you doing there to onboard? So remember, we're trying to keep making a value connection and a personal connection. Both of those efforts are going on at the same time. So certainly with, the value connections, a lot of things you can do. Packeted info you send. It could be a book related to financial planning. Could be reviewing their first statement a month in, right? Sometimes people don't know how to really read the statement and exactly what it means to them. Invitation to special educational events. A lot of things you can think of that could go here. And then, of course, advancing the business friendship. By the way, there's Scott Miller's on out of San Diego. And I interviewed Scott for one of my podcasts. I don't remember the episode number, but he is like the king of wow. He's the king of doing these special, neat things to build that personal relationship. Some great stories there. So look for Scott Miller's episode on my podcast. You want a checklist. You and your team kind of manage the checklist to make sure you're creating this wow experience. Let me give you some specific examples, make it real for you here. So Brian Sweet near Minneapolis has what he calls a 90-day dazzle. He doesn't tell his prospects or clients he's going to dazzle them for 90 days, but that's what he and his staff does. And they make sure they expose all the different ways they can help them. And then the personal connection as well. And one of the things he does, which is really cool, is he helps his new clients create a vision board. Sometimes it's called a dream board. Used to be, we went and found magazines and we clip pictures out and we paste them with Elmer's glue. But now, of course, you can just do it digitally. But, what do they want to have? What do they want to do? Who do they want to be? And can you imagine if you help some of your clients and prospects go through this, how you'd really get to know them, how you could add more value to their life, because the more context you have, the better advisor you become to them. And then you build that personal connection. You may have a few things on your bucket list that are in common and you help each other get there. So dream board. Now, not all of Brian's, new clients want to do this, but many of them do. And this is one of the reasons why they refer him, introduce him, because he helped them with that, and they're introducing him to others because of this exercise he does. Very powerful. Speaking of bucket list, Lester Matlock, episode number 3, one of my early episodes. Great little episode here with Lester. Let me tell you what Lester did. Very cool. On his bucket list was to 10 bar. He always wanted a 10 bar. And his wife said, well, let's have a client appreciation event and you can be the bartender. He thought it was a great idea. So he invited a lot of clients to the client appreciation event. He worked at a friend's restaurant a couple of nights, tending bar, just to kind of get it down a little bit, realize why he never really wanted to tend bar for a living. But he hosted the appreciation event, and all the guests, because they knew this was one of his bucket list items, they brought one of their bucket list items. And that now has become an ongoing theme of early on and throughout the relationship, how he serves his clients. What's on your bucket list? What I like about this is, a lot of advisors will do a plan. They'll figure out what the clients, their dreams, their desires for retirement, legacy, all that good stuff. But they don't always keep it alive. They don't always keep it going, which I think you should. I think the plan should be a living, breathing thing within the relationship. And one of the ways he does it in a very tangible way is the bucket list. Sometimes he makes sure that they fund it. Nothing worse than an unfunded dream, right? Or maybe he makes some introductions or just nudges them to make sure that they do what they say they want to do, right? So we're talking about becoming referable. We're talking about becoming referable now over time. You've heard the expression working on your business, working in your business. For this hour, you're working on your business. Usually you're working in it. Well, I think we also need to think in terms of working in our relationships and working on our relationships, right? So what does that look like? Well, I teach something I call a value discussion. And of all the things I've been teaching for 30 years, this is probably the most important. So please listen up, take some notes on this, study the slides later. This will bring up any unexpressed issues where if you're falling short on a prospect's or client's expectations, you're going to encourage them to bring it up, which is important. It enhances engagement, which makes you more referable. And then, of course, it will create some unsolicited introductions. So the verbiage is going to vary depending on, where you are in the relationship. We're going to get very tactical here. So first, second meeting could be, we've talked about a lot here today. What stands out as the most important? Or can you prioritize some of the things we've been talking about? It's an open-ended question. We want them to get in touch with the value, and they get in touch when they articulate it to us. You get a feel for how what you're saying is resonating with them. It gets that value percolating to the surface. Very, very important. Let's say it's a decision to work with you, go into underwriting with life insurance, or to do a financial plan or anything else. You made a very important decision. I want to acknowledge it. I know you had a couple of options. What tipped the scales? What made you decide to work with us? Very important question to ask, because the answer to that is going to reinforce their decision to work with you. You're going to learn from that answer. They're going to get in touch with the value. And it's a great opportunity to ask for introductions at this point. A review meeting. Let's put the market aside, economy aside, pandemic aside, stupid politics aside. Let's put it all aside, everything we can't control, and talk about what we can control, which is our communication, our overall working relationship. Anything not working, I should be aware of. Once you're into the relationship, 6 months or more, anything not working or any place we're not meeting your expectations, right? Remember, we're saying, let's put the market aside. Let's put the economy aside, things we can't control. But if they're still bothered by stuff and they think you can control the market, well, let them bring it up so you can deal with that, right? You can't be afraid of negative stuff here, because this is where you create a better relationship. I think we all know that a relationship that's had a problem that's been handled well is a stronger relationship than when it's never had a problem, right? And this value discussion will ferret that out. In most cases, they're just going to shift right to the positive. Most of the time they can say, oh, no, you're great. We love working with you, And you say, great, tell me more, right? So all these little places of checking in helps us determine, are we on the right path with them? Are we meeting expectations? Are we indeed becoming referable in their eyes so we can feel comfortable taking the next step? So you can make it about the meeting, that you're in. You can make it about the decision to move forward with you. You can make it about the process that you've gone through, the planning process, if you will. And you can make it about the overall working relationship. There's a lot of places you can do this check-in. I'd say that if there's one thing you take away from this program today, please make sure you're doing this on a pretty regular basis, and you will see how you form better and better and better relationships with your prospects and clients because of this. So again, if you want to get these slides, if you want to start looking and studying these a little more in depth, just send an email to me, Bill Cates, referralcoach.com. Put Advisorpedia, please, in the subject line so I know which deck to send to you. And feel free to ask questions or anything else you want. I do look at those personally. Happy to help you any way I can. So let me pause, take a sip of water. Doug, any questions coming in? Anything? And Scott Miller says, thanks for the shout out. You're welcome, Scott. I'm glad you got in. Doug, anything bubbling up?
Yeah, a couple. Can you have more than one client-focused why that you share with prospects and clients?
Yes, you can. And in fact, it's always nice to have more than one why, so you can take the one that's most relevant to the situation. It could be why you got started in this business. It could be, a lot of times it's different examples of things you've seen happen with different clients, and how it made you realize how important the work you do is. And so, and you might share one early on, brand new prospect. You might share another one later with a client, with the same client. And by the way, if you haven't shared any of these with your clients that you have now, that your why, get back there and share them and say, have I ever talked to you about how I got in this business in the first place, or what drives me every day? No, I don't think you ever did. It'll never hurt. It'll always help. And the more you share your why and are a little bit self-revealing, it gives them permission to peel the layer back on their why a little bit too. So good. Anything else, Doug?
Yeah, Cliff's asking, how do you handle objections to asking for referrals?
Oh boy, Cliff, that's a big, that's a whole hour session there. Well, let me give you a couple of examples. And I'll tell you what, for everybody on this call, since Cliff asked this, if you send me that email and you look for the slides, I will send you a little guide on objections, a little scripting around this. But essentially, Cliff, the first thing you want to do is try to understand the objection. So if someone says, well, let me think about it, that's fine. I appreciate that. Do you have a few folks in mind? You want to think about how you might approach it, or help me understand, right? You're trying to understand, what is the objection? What is the reason? There's always a reason behind the objection. So the first thing you want to do is understand it, because you don't want to try to quote unquote overcome it. In fact, you really shouldn't try to overcome referral objections. You're just trying to understand them. And then you have a way to reframe that. So if someone says, I don't like to give referrals, you can say, that's fine. I know some people don't. Can you tell me more? Or can you tell me more? Have you had a bad experience? Not sure how they'll react. And then they'll explain, they'll tell you a little bit. And they say, yeah, I had a bad experience. I gave referrals out to a vacuum cleaner salesperson. He bugged my neighbors and they won't invite me to the neighborhood picnic anymore. And you say, well, first of all, did you talk to him about how he's going to reach out to your neighbors? No. Did you talk to your neighbors? Let them know no. Well, that's probably where it broke down. I'll tell you, we handle a little bit differently. If I could just share that with you, that might make you feel a little more comfortable. Okay. Right. So you want to try to reframe their perspective, but you don't do that. You don't share your perspective until you've earned the right by hearing their perspective. So everybody in the call, just send an email, billcates@referralcoach.com. I will send a little scripting around what I just shared with Cliff there. Thank you, Doug. Let's keep going here. And then if there's more that are coming in, you just let me know. We'll pause again. Reminder, these guides for becoming more referable, asking, getting intros, receiving referrals, just go to fearlessreferrals.com. Yours for the taking, free but valuable. All right, let's talk about becoming proactive. How can we be proactive without pushing, without begging, like this little pooch here, right? There's two main ways to be proactive. One way, without looking like the creepy referral guy. Nobody wants to look like this guy. Even this guy doesn't want to look like this guy anymore, right? And I say that because the people that come to me often for coaching or just to get into my world, they'll say, Bill, how do I do this without looking like the creep? They either say creepy or cheesy. Those are the two words that I hear from folks like yourselves when they're interested in this. Two ways to be proactive. One is to promote. Sometimes I call it planting the seed because it's something you can do early and often throughout a relationship. And then the actual ask. So let's do the planting seeds. I've been teaching this forever. Some of you know me, know this one. It's the title of one of my books. Please don't keep me a secret. Simple thing. Don't keep me, this work, the important work I do, the value of what we do, any version thereof. Don't keep me a secret. Don't keep us a secret. It's a fun little thing. It goes into their unconscious. And then later they're having a conversation with somebody about the market, about the economy, about whatever. And they thank you and they know you're open. My advisor, Aaron Willis, this was during COVID. We had a COVID safe dinner once. It was outside. And he said to me, Bill, I heard something from a client, a very big client of mine that I know I shouldn't have heard. I said, what's that, Aaron? She said, Aaron, are you still taking on new clients? I go, yeah, it's probably not something you want to hear, especially from an A+ client, right? Who knows people like that. So this is one of the simple ways to do it. I know this doesn't fit everybody. For some folks, you'll love it. It's cute. It's fun. Others, not your style. That's fine. We've got other ways. Never too busy to see if I can be a resource for your friends, family, colleagues. Notice I say never too busy to see. That's the qualifier, right? You may be at a place where not everybody fits your business. So we're always in a qualifying mode. And so in this case, never too busy to see if I can be a resource. Simple. A lot of folks do this. This is good. This has its place. Not the same as asking, but it's a good thing to do. Here's something I came up with. Actually, this was around March, April of 2020. COVID hit strong. The market, takes a big dive, and kind of came up with this language. And you'll see there's lots of words you can substitute here, right? If you sense, George, Martha, if you sense that any of your friends or family or colleagues are concerned about their financial future or disturbed about the possibility of recession or stressed about, their retirement, right? Look at the word substitute, whatever fits, whatever's going on in the air around the economy, right? They're talking about inflation and recession at this moment. Market's been a little, wiggly. Whatever it is, whatever fits, this is a great way to plant the seed. And don't be surprised if this turns into a conversation right on the spot about an introduction, because sometimes you just got to nudge the process a little bit and people will start to think of others that they think you should know about. So fun, simple little thing, planting the seed. Lots of ways to do this, but don't confuse this with actual asking. That has its place. That's a good thing to do. I would say minimum behavior from now on. Check in with your prospects and clients on a pretty regular basis and at least plant the seed. At least let them know you're never too busy to see if you can be a resource. Now, let's talk about asking. Let's talk about removing the barriers, the blocks that keep people from asking. Here's one thing I know. You are smart and you are confident. You would not be here right now in this business if you were not smart and confident. And I also know that a lot of smart, confident people, when it comes to asking for introductions, turn into a bowl of quivering jello. It's like all of a sudden that smart, confident goes out the window. And that would be unfortunate. Some folks are natural at this. I encounter them from time to time. I'm kind of a natural in this, I guess. It's one reason I'm doing it. But a lot of people, most people, it's almost like a switch inside the brain needs to flip from off to on. By the way, you like that? The way I make that thing switch like that? Took me a Commanders football game. Commanders, where they playing? The Giants, I think. Can make that switch. Anyway, that's for me. So let me give you a specific example. Al Fox, when I met Al 10 years ago, he had about 300 million of assets under management, already doing really well. In 2020, he went over $1 billion. And here's what he told me, and I interview him in episode number 9, that once he realized, this is a simple switch inside his brain that flipped, that he didn't make this referral introduction stuff about him the old ways. Some of you have been taught this. Let me tell you how I get paid. I get paid through referrals. Or I'm trying to build my business. I could really use your help. Once he realized he didn't have to make it about him, but he could actually make it about them and the value and paying it forward with their value, it's like, the floodgates open for him and his ability to check, right? Financial leadership, bringing the value to others. You can almost see this as a service you provide your clients. If you really believe in the value that you bring, and most people out there have their head in the sand around what they're doing, or they're stuck in inertia in one way or the other, then it kind of makes sense that you would offer this as an opportunity to your clients. So I teach the VIPS method. Don't have time for the full method, but I'm going to give you the most important part. I gave you one most important part already, which is the value discussion. I'm going to bring you to the last, which is the other most important part, which is to come prepared for this, to suggest names and categories. So what do I mean by this? What do I mean by coming prepared and letting them know you've come prepared? Very important, because it creates curiosity. It also treats it with importance. So first thing, just stop. If you're doing this, stop throwing open the whole universe and saying, who do you know we can help? Who do you know should know about this work? I suppose that's better than nothing, and lightning strikes from time to time, and it can produce a result occasionally. But if you've done this, most of the time it fizzles. It doesn't produce a result, right? So where's the best place? What's the bullseye when it comes to asking for introductions? Well, it's specific people they know. How can you be a good, responsible financial professional if you don't find out who's impacted by the financial decisions they make, and who in their life may be making financial decisions that impact them, right? Just those two questions. Who do you know who's making the decision, right? And in fact, I have specific examples, right? Who are people in your life who make financial decisions that will impact you? Could be siblings, could be parents, right? Could be children. Sometimes your clients have to protect themselves against their parents or other people in their life. I know one advisor says, other than your immediate family, are there other folks in your life that you feel in some way financially connected or responsible to? What we're doing here is, first of all, we're becoming the best advisor we can by creating more context. The more you know about your clients, the better advisor you are. And you're also starting to build a little bit of an inventory, so you have some specific places to go, right? Ask them who've made financial decisions who are some folks in your life who've made financial decisions that you really respect, or who have retired comfortably and you appreciate what they've done. You're just trying to get a sense of their relationship to making financial decisions and what they respect. Sometimes they'll say, well, what I want to do is make sure I don't do what my parents did. Oh, tell me more about that. Now you're learning more about them. You're getting more context. You're also creating a little bit of inventory, right? So specific people they know. A close second to this is categories: life events, money in motion. These are great because we know that's quite often someone won't get onto our radar, won't put us on their radar unless there's like a trigger event, something going on, changing jobs, inheritance, selling a property, a business, whatever it may be, right? There's some money in motion or life event. And so these are great categories to bring to the conversation. And even in your very first meeting with a brand new prospect, I'm not saying you're going to ask for introductions in the first meeting all the time, but you still have a place to go, right? Even if you don't know anybody they know, you got the categories, right? There's no reason not to be specific about this. LinkedIn, directories, list. I just added this clever ideas because some of you have heard this before. People have been taught to say, well, look, if you got tickets to the Super Bowl, who would you invite? Right? Clever thing. If you have a dinner party for your closest friends, who would those people be? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with saying those kinds of things if you have someone that's kind of open to a little brainstorming here. But you're really going to be better off starting with specific people they know, and or these categories of life events, money in motion. And you can create open-ended brainstorming. Just don't start there. Start as narrow and specific as you can, and then you can open it up. Say, yeah, it's a couple ideas I have. What do you think? So let me model this for you really fast. I got two versions. One's a little slightly longer version. The other's kind of a cut to the chase version, right? You pick the one that fits you. So a value discussion could be, we've been through a process to get to this point. Tell me the value you feel you've gotten from the process. Could be a delivery of a plan, could be delivery of a life insurance policy or other product. And then they tell you the value and say, great, I'm glad to see the value in what we're doing. And because of that, I have an important question to ask you. I was hoping we could put our heads together for a couple minutes, see if we can identify a few folks that you think should at least be aware of the important work I do. I actually have a few ideas I'd like to run by a couple people you mentioned in a previous appointment and a couple of categories of people we tend to serve pretty well. In fact, you're in one of those categories. Oh, what category am I in? Right? Coming prepared, coming specific. It creates curiosity, right? Some people say, Bill, what do I do with the objection? I don't know anyone. Well, this will take care of that because you've already come prepared. Now, let me give you the cut to the chase version. Still have the value check-in. Still make sure they're seeing the value, or maybe they're giving you a value recognizing statement. They're acknowledging the value. Then you say, great, I know your sister and brother-in-law are in the area. You mentioned them a couple of times. Gosh, how do you feel about introducing me to them? I mean, assuming we come with an approach that feels very comfortable for you and for them, can we talk about that, right? Go for a specific introduction. Look, the way of the world, the way of your world is meeting other people through introductions. It's the warm way we get into their lives. We should not be afraid of this. Now, how do we exit this? If someone, we explored, but they don't want to do it for whatever reason, it's never going to hurt a relationship, by the way. The worst thing that ever happens is you plant the seed. That's it. Well, sorry, I hit the wrong button. No. There we go. Plant the seed as you exit. Hey, George, that's fine. Next time you see someone, you talk to someone, you think maybe you should know about what I do, just don't keep me a secret. Fair enough. Okay. Or Martha, I just wanted you to be aware of the fact I'm never too busy to see if I can be a resource for other people you care about. Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair. And that's it, right? No harm, no foul, no relationship hurt. Again, if you want these slides to start looking at this verbiage that I'm talking about here, Advisorpedia in the subject line, Bill Cates, referralcoach.com. All right, let me pause for a sip of water. Doug, any questions coming through?
Can you reshare the information on the free referral reminders?
Yeah, just Fearless Referrals, fearlessreferrals.com. We'll take you to that.
Okay. When's the best time to ask for a referral?
Yeah, that's a great time. Yeah. There's two ways to think about this. So I'm going to give you kind of two ways to think about it. First of all, there's a little more artful way, and then figuring out what's the right time. And that is you're becoming referable when value is delivered and value is recognized. All right. Well, how do you know value is being recognized? Well, first of all, your clients are giving you value recognizing statements. They're saying thank you. They're saying this is great. Always feel better after we meet. Those types of value recognizing statements are often leverageable moments. You can at least plant the seed, or you could gain permission to explore a little bit deeper. The value discussion, right? That's going to let you know that value is being recognized. So pay attention to that and you can see. But let me give you a little formula that is meant to be broken, but will give you a place to start with this. So first time you get together, obviously you want to provide value, maybe share your why, create a little bit of that personal connection, and check in at the end. We talked about a lot of things. Can you tell me, what stands out? What's the most important thing we've talked about so far? Great. Just so you know, I'm never too busy to bring this important work to other people you care about, or to see if I can help other people you care about. Next time you get together, it could be a discovery meeting, could be a recommendations meeting, value discussion, right? Check in. Great. And don't keep this a secret out there. Oh, okay, I won't. And then the third time you get together, it could be delivery of a plan, a policy, could be, review meeting, whatever it is. Now it's time to ask. Value discussion, get to the specific VIPS. So that gives you a little rule of thumb around the timing. And, pay attention to personality. The neat thing about planting seeds, about don't keep me a secret, never too busy, and other ways to do this, is you see how they react. and you get a feel for what is their relationship to talking about introductions. And some people you'll see they're very open to it and it turns into it without you really going very hard at it. And others you can see you might want to wait a little bit. They're very private. They've had a bad experience. You probably want to put it on hold for a little bit. So hope that helps a little bit. Anything else, Doug?
We should probably move on looking at the time.
All right, good. And we'll have a little more time at the end, hopefully. So have fun with this. The more fun you have with this, the better, the easier. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Art's a financial professional in Baltimore. He's a fun guy. His clients are used to him having fun. He says, we're just brainstorming here. I'm looking for about 100 people. And his clients go, Art, 100 people? You got to be kidding me. First of all, we don't even know 100 people. We only had 60 at our wedding. Oh, too many. Okay. How about 3 or 4? Now, all of a sudden, 3 or 4 is not so bad, right? and that's what works for him. Doug is a financial advisor in Omaha. And this is what Doug says. He says, we're just brainstorming here. First and foremost, do you know any lottery winners? And they laugh and they go, that's funny, but I bet you would like to know lottery winners. And we do play, by the way. Great. I'm here for you. That's all right. I'm just having fun. We're just brainstorming a little. I got a couple actually very specific ideas I want to run by you. So the more you fun and you can be around this, the more relaxed everybody is and all that sort of stuff. So in a second, I want to talk about how you get introduced. But just for 60 seconds or less, I want to tell you about a new tool that we've just launched. It's just come out and it's called Rapid Fire Referrals. If you're new to my stuff, then this is a great introduction. If you've been with me for a long time, then this is a great reinforcement tool. And you can save $100 if you go to rapidfirereferrals.com and you put the coupon code RFR100. Then it brings it down from $297 to $197. So it's like $4 lessons, 52 lessons over 52 weeks. You'll be sick of me, but hopefully you won't be sick of the ideas that you'll be getting and producing results with. So, all right, let's talk about the securing the connection, the introduction. And James put a nice comment in the chat. And Doug, you see that, you'll ask me when we get to the point of some questions. So, before COVID hit, nobody knew the answer to this question. Now everybody knows. When the FDA is approving a drug for the market, what's it looking for? Well, is the drug safe and effective, right? That's what they want to know. So in my parlance, it would be, is it comfortable and relevant? Right? Is it going to feel comfortable to all parties? And is it going to be relevant enough to spark their interest to be effective? Right? So first thing, when you're thinking about making introductions, learn as much as you can about this from your referral source, about the prospect. Carve out time, make sure there's time there. If it's not obvious, how do you know them or why they thought of them? Maybe it's obvious because you brought it up. If not, ask them, why do you think they should know about what I do? How, what might pique their interest? How do you think they're going to react to this? The more you talk a little bit about the new prospect with your referral,
Bill, you're glitching. Let's wait and see if we can get Bill back.
can you hear that?
Yes, you are back.
Oh, something with a microphone. I don't know what's about that. All right. Sorry, guys, gals. All right. What's going on in his or her life that's important to them right now? This is a great question to ask because we know that money intersects all aspects of one's life, right? And so whatever's going on in that prospect's life, whatever's on their life's radar, could be the very reason why they should talk to you. and you may be able to serve them in some ways? This is a great question to ask. What we're trying to do here, of course, is come up with all the best possible introduction. And there's different types of introductions. In person, in a business setting is great. In person, in a social setting is great. Now, I love in-person introductions, and they're particularly good in financial services. The one thing you got to be careful about is the logistics of making it happen. What we don't want is the enthusiasm of getting this connection made to wane because we can't get the parties together to make this in-person introduction, right? So that's the only caveat around that. A lot of folks these days are doing Zoom three-way introductions because we've all become so much more comfortable with this. I've been introduced this way several times, and a colleague of mine was introducing me to some of his clients, and we did a three-way Zoom and worked quite well. Texting, some folks are doing texting. Make sure you follow your company's compliance around this if you have to. I generally recommend, if you're going to get texted, make sure that, first of all, they send your contact information to their friend. They send your V card, they send your contact, and then usually you're going to move it out of texting as quickly as possible. Rule of thumb, the older the folks involved, the older the prospect in particular, the less likely they're going to want to do this through texting, generally speaking. I'll tell you my favorite. My favorite is the email handshake, and the backup is the client bump, and I want to illustrate those to you right now and then show you how you can get more info on these. So the email handshake, these are some templates we have. So the client is Bob Jones. Laura Smith is a prospect. I'm the advisor. All right. So in the subject line, Laura Smith, meet Bill Cates, right? Already we're identifying this is going to be an introduction. Laura, remember that conversation we had about retiring without a pay cut? Well, I want you to meet Bill Cates, right? It's an introduction. It's got a little Y to it. Laura meet Bill, Bill meet Laura, right? I hope you guys connect. This is a great way to get introduced. This is the way I get introduced most of the time. And it works very, very well. Does it work 100% of the time? No, nothing works 100%, but it works well. Now, the client bump I mentioned, let's say you have a client who either can't be bothered by making this introduction or says they're going to, and they just never get around to it. You know, what's the backup plan? Well, now we're sending the email, right? We're using the referral source's name in the subject line. Very important, because they don't know who you are. They know who their friend is. So that, you know, that their friend's name in the subject line is what will get them to actually open the email. And then you introduce yourself briefly, and then you're looking for a quick phone call. But here's what makes the difference. This is why I call it the client bump, because your client has agreed that when they see this go through, because you CC'd them, they will add to the introduction. I've done this a lot. It also works. The other one works a little bit better because it's coming from the client first. Usually the client likes to do that. But if you have clients that want to kind of make sure that they don't disturb the relationship, they want to protect the relationship, either one of these works quite well, because it's softer. It's an email. You're not calling someone and quote unquote disturbing them. You're getting introduced in some form. So these are very powerful. And I'm going to send these, right? When you ask for the slides, you're also going to get the little scripts I promised around objections. And I also send you a little packet I have of these email introductions. I have a couple other versions of this that I will send to you as well. So a lot of value coming here from Advisorpedia, right? So I just want to let you know that you can get that if you send that to me. I'll get to it as quick as I can today. Don't forget about rapid fire referrals, rapidfirereferrals.com, RFR 100, save a few dollars. Doug, questions coming up. We got a few minutes left.
Although I'm comfortable asking clients for referrals, I have a reluctance to ask for introductions. Any suggestions to make this transition from James?
Yeah. So James, so first it's the mindset, your mindset, meaning we know that if you don't get introduced, this may be a waste of time and energy, right? You're not going to be able to help that friend of your clients, right? Because we know that it breaks. This is where it breaks down. So your mentality needs to be, or your mindset needs to be, we're not done. until we've orchestrated the introduction, right? So if you're feeling some reluctance here, think of it this way. What's in the best interest of this prospect? Really, what's in the best interest of this new person? Well, that they actually, move through their inertia and consider there are some other options on how they might be managing their current and future, finances, right? So what's best for them is to at least have a conversation with you. And so once you realize that, once you come from that position of financial leadership and realize that them telling their friends about you, word of mouth is nice, but it's usually not enough. Every now and then it works, right? Because we get those unsolicited referrals, but in most cases, it's not enough. So it's mostly the thinking, the mindset we have to think, and we just say, George, great. I'm glad you're willing to introduce me to Bob and Laura. And, I found the best way to move forward is for them to hear from you first. I like to do an email introduction where you say, Bob, Laura, I want you to meet, James, vice versa. What do you think? Oh, sounds good. And that's how you do it. Doug, anything else coming up?
Yeah, Stephanie's asking for personal introductions. Hang on. Once you get the introduction, how do you prospect them? Do you ask questions right then and there, scheduling a meeting now or for later?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but so if I'm talking to my referral source, the introducer, if you will, I'm going to arrange what it looks like. Let's say it's an email introduction, and they send an email and they CC me, or I'm on the to list, and I'm going to follow up with Laura and say, Laura, I see that George is saying some nice things about me. I appreciate that. He's a great guy. By the way, I see you went to the University of Maryland. Go Terps. I was hoping we could schedule a brief, based on George's urging, we can schedule a brief call, 10, 15 minutes, see if it makes sense to get a conversation going, right? Simple as that. That's what we're doing. We're waiting for the email to go through, and then we respond as quickly as we can. And by the way, we want the ask to be an easy yes. We don't want to go from an email introduction to try to meet them in person, whether we're going to them or they're coming to us. That's usually too big of an ask right away. So usually we want that first 10, 15, if you need 20-minute intro call. And then, yes, you are asking questions, right? You want to check in. You can even send a little survey, a little checklist, a little something before the call that might get them thinking a little bit about where they are financially in terms of what they've done around planning and insurance and investments and retirement and things like that. So I hope that helps a little bit. If you need follow-up, just shoot me an email. Doug, we're about at the top. You got a quick one maybe, or?
I don't. We do, but none of them are quick. So I'll get those to you and you can reach out to those people directly. So please, thank you, Bill. Thanks for being with us today. And
my pleasure. Thanks, Advisopedia. Thank you, Doug. I should say go Terps for me, and I should say go Blue for your University of Michigan.
Yes, and thank you for everyone who attended. You guys are doing the best work in the industry and helping your clients be successful. So we'll send an email out next week with a copy of the slides and all the websites Bill referenced. And our next Advisorpedia Presents is Wednesday, February 1st with Gordon Stein, the author of the best-selling Cash Flow Cookbook, with a presentation on unlocking additional client cash flow to grow your AUM. Look for that.
That's a great book, by the way, the Financial Cookbook from Gordon. I've read it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and good luck.
You bet. Thanks.